This is the appointment of Jeremy Betza to the position of Assistant Fire Chief.
I, Jeremy Betza, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially discharge the duties of Assistant Fire Chief in the Avon Lake Fire Department from March 3, 2018 and thereafter during my continuance in said office.
Congratulations.
An ordinance confirming the appointment of Eric Zamaya to the position of firefighter paramedic in the fire department and declaring an emergency.
I, Eric Zamaya, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially discharge the duties of firefighter paramedic in the Avon Lake Fire Department from March 12, 2018, and thereafter during my continuance in said office.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The Recreation Department was very active in the last week. First of all, we had an incredible ribbon cutting at the Anchor, which is, of course, the former Avon Lake Theater turned into a recreation area. There were representatives from the Cavaliers there, including cheerleaders, including Moondog, and a few other people. It was an incredibly positive experience.
Mr. Wright, Mr. Shondell, the mayor, and myself attended the seminar on coyotes, and one which I was blown away. But I would suggest that somehow, some way, we bring that presentation into the residents of Avon Lake, because that is such a valuable tool for us to know that I had no idea coyotes were as smart and as innovative and eat what they eat and that kind of stuff.
With that, we go to audience participation. You have 3 minutes. You'll have 5 minutes at the end of the meeting to speak any item at Avon Lake. You have 3 minutes at this point to speak to any agenda item that's on the agenda for this evening. Please give your name and address, speak to the chair.
I'm John Shondell. I live at 410 Greenbrier Drive in Avon Lake, and I'm here tonight to speak in support of temporary legislation 10,989, interpreting sections 26, 37, 51, 56, 71 of the city charter pertaining to the employment of outside legal counsel. The need for this legislation goes back a long time, but I'm vividly familiar with the period of time from Monday, January 23, 2012, until December 18, 2017, the period of time which I served as a counsel at large for this city and a member of the Sewer Committee. From the day after I was sworn in until the last meeting of 2017, Monday, December 18th, I was painfully aware that the 5 elected members of the Board of Municipal Utilities saw their role and status as one that was almost totally separate from and equal to the role of the 7 elected members of the Avon Lake City Council. This attitude began long before 2012 and was fostered by at least the current and past 2 chairmen of the Board of Municipal Utilities. For my 6 years on council, my colleagues and I tried multiple ways and times to convince the Board of Municipal Utilities that even though they were a separately elected body, they were not a separate political subdivision, and as such are subject to matters under the purview of the city's law director, finance director, and human resources director. The board's actions must ultimately not be repugnant to the ordinances passed by the City Council, or to the city charter, or to the Constitution of the State of Ohio. The mayor, with City Council's approval, signs their contracts. The Finance Department issues their paychecks, and with proper purchase orders, pays their bills, and the city is ultimately responsible for any of their indebtedness. This legislation confirms the authority of the city's law director to approve the use of any and all outside legal counsel, and reaffirms that if questions of charter interpretation arise, reference is made to Charter Section 71, Interpretation, and I quote, "In order that a ready means be at hand for reconciling any conflicts, resolving any inconsistencies, and clarifying any obscurities which may be discovered in the language of this charter, the power is hereby vested in council to interpret the various sections and parts of this charter in harmony with the spirit thereof. By
Shondell,
ordinance,
your time is up, sir. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak this evening?
Good evening. My name is Dana Schnabel. My address is 523 Legends Row here in Avon Lake. For those of you that don't know me, I am an elected member of the Board of Municipal Utilities. My role on this board is to oversee Avon Lake Regional Water, which often works closely with the city of Avon Lake in regards to many matters. I am also here tonight to speak in regards to City Council's temporary legislation number 10989, which pertains directly to municipal utilities. It is my understanding that this legislation stems largely from a desire for more effective communication between municipal utilities and Avon Lake Regional Water and City Council. I do not support the proposed legislation, nor do I feel it will have a positive impact on the relationship between municipal utilities and City Council. Furthermore, because the legislation proposed involves changes in the charter that governs Avon Lake, I feel the most appropriate measure would be to place this matter before charter review. I want everyone on council to know that I personally am more than willing to work with and meet with each and every one of you to hopefully work to reach resolutions that work for everyone involved in this matter. I thank you for your time this evening and your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Schnabel.
Thank you, Council President. Tim Rush, 554 Treeside Lane, Avon Lake, also a member of the Board of Municipal Utilities. I'm here obviously to speak about temporary legislation 10989. We've had discussions I've had personal discussion with many of you on the City Council. This issue, obviously, there's very strong feelings both ways on this thing. Charter review is one avenue. There's another avenue besides the one that the legislation itself, and that's Section 9A of the Charter is a referral by council to the electorate by 2/3, and I quote, by 2/3 vote of the members of council, any ordinance or resolution may be referred to the electorate of the city at a general, primary, or special election. So there are other remedies, and who better to determine the future of this than the residents of Avon Lake. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I move confirming the mayor's appointment of Robert Brooks, John Ivanchuk, Walden Rice, Nicole Slavinsky, and Mark Spatzel to the Charter Review Commission, effective March 1st, 2018, and expiring February 28th, 2019. In discussion, as I stated, these are the mayor's appointments. Mayor, I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to add to that.
Thank you. I had a conversation with all these individuals. They're very eager to serve. Mr. Brooks had been on the Charter Review Commission 5 years ago, and we have found that it's good to have at least one person come back after 5 years to give some sense of history to the conversations that went on. Obviously, the issue of the charter with regard to utilities is a good example of that. These individuals seem to be very dedicated and committed, and we're very pleased to have them willing to serve for up to 1 year in their capacity as Charter Review members. Thank you.
Next motion, move appointing Loretta Voss, Ward 1, Craig Nickrunt, Ward 2, Ken Glank, Ward 3, and Michael Sapko, Ward 4, to the Charter Review Commission effective March 1st, 2018, and expiring February 28, 2019. In discussion, the council has to pick an individual from each ward for representation purposes. The clerk will read temporary legislation 10,989, please.
An ordinance interpreting sections 26, 37, 51, 56, and 71 of the city charter pertaining to the employment of outside legal counsel and the payment of the fees of such legal counsel, establishing the requirements for the employment of outside legal counsel, and declaring an emergency.
Yeah, the ordinance itself is not really an amendment of the charter. It's an interpretation of the charter. The charter itself is I think, is relatively clear as to what's required, but there was some discussion about it and some issues taken with some of the provisions of the charter. So this is to make clear that the charter says what it says. And
Mr. James?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would note that pursuant to codified ordinance 220.15H1, that states if an ordinance is substantially amended upon the third reading, the reading shall be postponed. In light of that, although it's on third reading, I would respectfully decline from making a motion to pass this evening, and in compliance with our own rules of order, to delay to a further reading on March 12th.
On March 12th. We'd have another discussion on it at a question committee meeting. This is March 6th, I believe. We need to do any other action, Mr. Lieberman?
No,
Tabling or anything
no,
like
Mr.
that?
President.
That's all? Okay. All righty, any other discussion on that? With that, that concludes the legislation portion of the meeting. We go to any business announcements by anyone? Miscellaneous announcements? Mrs. Hunterbush.
Yes. My 2 cents that I give at the end of every meeting is the following. Your home was built prior to 1972. You still qualify for the sewer separation lateral project. Please call Avon Lake Regional Water as soon as possible to receive the free inspection. You will, if you do need to put in a sub pump, exterior or interior, you will need to have permits. The City of Avon Lake is offering free permits for both plumbing and electrical. You need to have the permits in order to protect your safety. So follow through. Thank you.
Thank you.
My last day will be the last of February. I'm sorry, last of March. In a conversation I had with Marty a couple of weeks ago, I promised him that I would give him enough time to find my replacement, which should be easy to do. There's a lot of qualified people in Ward 3. And Mr. Mayor, to your point, there's a lot of qualified females as well as qualified males. So unless something happens, my last day will be the end of March.
Thank you, Mr. Miners. I appreciate you giving us some guidance there with that situation, and I'm sure we'll have other announcements here as we go along. I know you don't like that kind of stuff.
No, I
but,
don't. No,
know.
I don't.
You can't do
Well, you've been here a long time, and you've certainly been a colleague a long time, and I appreciate working with you. And you know, you've always spoken your mind, and the representation of those residents in Ward 3, you've always put them first, and you've served them well. So I want to thank you, and I'm sure we're going to have another evening here where we can.
One or two, no more than one or two, maybe three at the most.
All right, well, we'll get it in there with that. With that, we'll go to public input. We have you have 5 minutes to speak, and any issue in Avon Lake, give your name and address.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I'm John Shondell. I live at 410 Greenbrier Drive, Avon Lake. And when my presentation was interrupted, I was talking about Charter Section 71 interpretation, and I quote, "In order that a ready means may be at hand for reconciling any conflicts, resolving any inconsistencies, and clarifying any obscurities which may be discovered in the language of this charter. The power is hereby vested in council to interpret the various sections and parts of this charter in harmony with the spirit thereof, by ordinance of said council adopted by the affirmative vote of 5 or more of its members. The mayor, council president, and the law director issued a memorandum on June 30th, 2017, that sought to clarify this matter, and it was sent to officers, directors, executives, and heads, all Avon Lake departments, chairs, all Avon Lake boards and commissions. The memorandum ended with the following paragraph, and I quote, "City Council intends to formalize this policy with appropriate legislation consistent with its authority in sections 36, 37, 51, and 71 of the Charter in the near future. In the meantime, should you have any questions regarding this matter, Please do not hesitate to contact one of us to discuss." Close quote. This legislation, 10,989R, interpreting sections 26, 37, 51, 56, and 71 of the city charter pertaining to employment of outside legal counsel, is that promised legislation. On December 18, 2017, I said in my farewell remarks that my only regret was not having the opportunity to vote in favor of this legislation because its third reading was going to occur after my term in office had expired. I applaud the present council's courage to face this long-standing issue head-on and confirm the rule of law, not of men. I urge unanimous favorable vote. Thank you.